Welcome. It is Friday, July 3rd. This is Michelle Carter from the Aram Public Library. And once again, we are with the UW Extension Office, Walworth County Master Gardeners. Today's episode is all about annuals and vegetables. So take it away.
Thank you, Michelle. We again are happy to be here. Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody. My name is Julie Hill. I am a horticulture outreach specialist and I serve Walworth and Rock counties. And today we have two of our wonderful Walworth County Master Gardeners here. We have Nina and Sue here with us. And Nina's the one wearing the glasses. And Sue has a little co-pilot with her too. So we are ready to talk about gardening. So if you have any questions while you're watching this, or even after we go live today, drop them in those comments. I will take a look at those even after the fact. If you have any questions and while you're joining with us right now live, put them in the comments and we will answer them in a few moments. So I'm just going to take a moment here and share my screen for everybody and give you a little bit of background. Again, thank you to Aram Library for hosting us. We are excited to be here. Every week we are here and trying to provide you some top 5 tips for gardening advice and answer your gardening questions. So just a little bit of background in case you're new to joining us. We are with the University of Wisconsin Division of Extension. I am a staff member with Extension, and we are really geared and trying to serve all the communities of Wisconsin and connecting all of you with the resources of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So there's lots of research, lots of educational resources, lots of information to connect you to. I'm going to be posting some links to resources in our comment section for today's program. And those are there to help you too. So that is our job, is to get you in touch with that credible and reliable information from the university. Master Gardeners are a huge part of serving the mission of Extension. So as Sue and Nina can tell you, they are certified and they have to maintain those certification requirements every year. So we have continuing education requirements and volunteer community service hours every year that they have to fulfill in order to stay a Master Gardener, in addition to their initial training and certification requirements. All right, so let's start getting into it. We're going to talk a little bit more about annuals and perennials, and I wanted to just give you a little bit basics about the differences. So annuals are those plants that are going to complete their life cycle in a season, where perennial plants are going to live for a few years or many years. And there's lots of different examples of both of these. They both come in a wide variety of shapes and colors, and short ones and tall ones. So you can really mix them up in your landscape. You can do ones that are just perennial beds and just annual beds, or I have a garden bed that I do both. I have stuff that's there every year that comes back, and other things that I just replant every year. So it kind of depends on what you want to do too. You can experiment, which is the really fun part, especially with the annuals. You can do a lot of different colors. But remember that annuals are going to have to be replanted every year. So there's going to be a little bit more of that annual work. Also, annuals require, we were just talking about this before, they are a little bit needy and need a little bit more attention than perennials. Perennials aren't necessarily maintenance free, but annuals definitely need more water, more fertilizing, more grooming than our typical perennial plants do. So they both have advantages and disadvantages. Annuals usually bloom throughout the whole season and offer a lot of color throughout the whole growing season. Perennial plants typically just have a specific time that they bloom for and a limited time. So again, mixing it up so you have things blooming all season long, from spring to late summer and early fall, is really a really beautiful way. Just to show some examples, on my deck, I do kind of these annuals and some container plantings. I've been really into these petunias lately. You'll see on the bottom left. I don't know, this year was like petunias. That's all I wanted to plant for some reason. So those have been a lot of fun. I love these striped petunias and these red and white ones. The two pictures on the right are also from my own garden. And this is a new coneflower that I planted, a new echinacea. And the next one there, that orange one, that is a butterfly weed. We talked about that last week with the pollinator program. That is a great plant for pollinators, for all sorts of butterflies. So that one is in full bloom right now and is just beautiful. Sue, I'm going to share a couple of your pictures too, if you want to talk about those. These are some plants you have in some containers at your place.
Certainly. Okay, so on the left-hand side, I don't know if I can use my pointer or not, but Julie, can you point out this is a perennial rosemary right here in this pot. And right here behind it is the angel wing begonia. And the rest of these guys down here on the bottom, there is this is a vinca, and these are like a daisy. They're gazania. And these guys down here, they are all annual plants. So I use them to side dress my co-plant in the same pot. As you can see, the angel wing begonia and the rosemary overwinter them in the same pot. So that's what I've got in this pot. In this pot over here, I have gomphrena, which is this plant right here. These are Johnny jump ups, or little violets, this is oxalis, better known as the shamrock, plant. And then down here is a moss plant right here, and then this is a lilium here. This here is a perennial. The moss plant right here is an annual, and the gomphrena I overwinter, but they're also known as a annual. But if you overwinter them correctly, then they will come back year after year. This is like the 4th or 5th year that I've got with it now. So, and these guys here, this one's 7 years old, and this angel wing begonia, I do believe it's like 4 years old now. This is a hibiscus right here, a tree hibiscus that I trim back every single year on the right-hand side, this picture right here. And I have all these guys living out on my deck. I have several more pots between this size and this size right here, all over my deck, with different plants in there, with different plants in there, being very pretty. The hibiscus does not have any plants there on the side of it because I find that it needs all of that pot space in there to handle its roots. So all I do during the winter time is that I trim it back in order to get it through the doorways, and then I overwinter it right alongside these other pots right here in my solarium. With me trimming it way back, it prepares it for the winter. I try not to take away too many leaves from it because I need that leaf structure in order to carry it through the winter. It's just a matter of getting it through the doorway and making it survive the winter. In the springtime, about March, well, as soon as I can get it outside, some years it's earlier, some years it's later. I bring it outside and I get it ready for the deck again. I keep it in the shade an awful lot more than normal, and I take it and I remove it from the pot, and I totally give it a trim on the roots and on the upper storage structure of the tree structure, just to get it ready and coming out through. Now this is a 2.5. This picture is 2.5 weeks old, and it's already starting to bloom a whole lot more, and it's starting to leaf out a whole lot more than what this is showing right now. So that's what I've got for you.
Beautiful. Sue, real quick question. Can all annuals be overwintered?
No, some annuals, they just die out just because. I know right now one plant that I've got out on my deck, the gazania the gazania right here will die out, as will these guys right here. And I believe the vinca will also, and the moss rose. So what you do with them is that as soon as they die out, you just take them and pluck them out and put them in the compost heap. Thanks for asking.
Great. Thanks for that, Sue. So we'll move along. We're going to get into our top 5, specifically how to care for your annuals, but a lot of this advice is just good overall, taking care of your plant advice. And Nina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have a lot of annuals in my yard, but these are just definitely some good advice things. I kind of use annuals more as little fillers here and there. The first thing is location. It really depends on what your annual needs. If it's full sun, I think typically it's like 6 hours or more of sunlight. And so you need to put the plant in the right place. And also sometimes that does have to do with soil too. So, you know, think about the type of soil that your plant likes. You know, something that's wet and compact may not be advisable. But all of those things are important. So the right location for the right plant. Water is important. Does your annual like to be watered daily? We were talking about that earlier, like petunias, or does it want to be a little drier? I pulled a few things out of my yard. I have some nasturtiums, which are in the front, and I just love them. You can put them in a salad. They are kind of repel the deer. Mine are mostly orange colors, but they like kind of a poor soil. And so they're just right in the front of my vegetable garden to deter the critters. And those are planted every year, so nasturtiums. I also have some African marigolds, I believe they are. And they're a little taller. And I would say they're kind of average desire as far as water. I do pinch these back more frequently. And then I have a few petunias, not many. And they don't do so great in my yard because I have kind of a dry, sunny soil. And so they're looking sort of sad right now. So water is important. Consider, you know, what your plant likes. Some prefer more dry soil, and this will also help you promote your bloom over the season. I've noticed that some of these annuals also produce seeds. And so if you don't, especially nasturtiums do, if you don't want them there next year, you should probably cut them back before they form their seed heads. Morning glories are also notorious for doing that too. So consider seed production. Do you want them there again next year? Growth habits. Some of these, I actually do have a whole garden of zinnias this year that I put in, and some are really, really tall. So consider, do you want them, you know, are they something that should be in the front or should they be behind? What's the growth habit of your annuals? Some spread horizontally, some, you know, don't. So consider the size also of the flower head. The zinnias I'm growing are just starting to flower, and the flower heads are going to be huge. So what are some of the characteristics of the flowers as they grow? So yes, as I said, I don't have a lot of them, but I kind of use them as filler plants. They're great. They do require a lot of maintenance, I would say. Whereas perennials, you can they just have their blooming season. So they're a little more fussy, but they definitely can brighten up your garden. And I think that's it.
Thanks, Nina. I will just mention here back to the watering too. If you have annuals or any plants in containers, usually container plantings need more water than things planted in a bed in the soil. So keeping that in mind too, that I've noticed my containers, they dry out a lot faster and more, and from the wind and from the container, they need more water. So as I've been kind of experimenting more with annuals in my own place, they are needy and fussier, like Nina said, and just giving them what they need will really help them bloom. And in the past, I just kind of ignored them and thought, oh, well, they're fine. You know, it rained the other day, but no, they need more than that. They need some more attention. So it's learning as you go. And we were also talking here before, you know, not all the plants, you might see some plants kind of not looking so happy right now because of the heat. Not all plants are going to really do well in this hot that we've been having last week and this week. So that's to be expected with some plants, and just kind of understanding a little bit about where you have them and if they need more water or things like that. All right. I just want to mention real quick about deadheading. So this is where you're pinching off that bloom. So like on marigolds, this is a good example for, and you're pinching off the flower head. So after that flower head is kind of spent, you pinch that flower head off, and then that's going to encourage the plant to produce more flowers. So with annuals and even some perennials, you can do this, and just to help boost more flowers. Dahlias are a good example too of pinching off flower heads so you can get some more blossoms. And it's not just getting the petals off. You want to, this picture is showing to pinch off that whole flower head. All right, I have an example here just because I know summertime is a season for doing a lot of maintenance around the house. And I had a homeowner share these pictures with me, and she was asking me what happened to my petunias. So on the left is this picture of what a lot of her petunias looked like before. You can see they're in full color. These two right-hand pictures, you can see the petunias look different, right? The color, it seems like it drained out of them and some bleaching. So what had happened was she had her driveway sealed. So I know that summertime is a really popular time. That's when you fix up your driveways, right? So just keep in mind that it can affect your plants. These petunias will bounce back. We advised her to give them some good watering and even a little bit of some balanced fertilizer kind of at the end of watering, and they should be a bounce back. Petunias are pretty tough, but it was a little concerning to see such a drastic change within a day. So if you are doing any work like that, if you are having your driveway sealed, or just thinking about any other projects, if you have something in containers that you can kind of move out of the way, move them further back, because everything that she had within about a 10 to 12 foot radius of her driveway was affected. So again, these will bounce back, they'll be okay. But if you're kind of wondering, oh, what's happening to my plant, also consider anything that you've been doing around that area too, because that can affect your plants. Okay, I have bad news, you guys. Japanese beetles are back and they're in full force. I've been seeing them all over. So we had talked about this a few weeks ago. One of the best ways you can kind of just help them, you're never going to get rid of all of them, but to sort of kind of manage them, especially if you have a smaller space or some smaller garden beds, is the bucket of soapy water, and you go around and you knock them in there and you drown them. They don't bite. You can pick them off. Great job for the kiddos this summer. So go out there and start picking those off and drop them in the bucket. I know some people use neem oil, which you can use. Neem is a great product, but I wanted to mention that there is an active ingredient to look for. So not all neem oil products are created equal. So there is an active ingredient called azadirachtin that you want to check for, and that is another insecticide, and these are safe to use. They're not toxic to pollinators, but when you're looking for those neem oil products, if you're a neem oil user, especially in areas where maybe, you know, if you have trees that you're trying to use products on because you can't be picking off the Japanese beetles, just check the ingredients. Another option, especially if you have like grapevines or some other shrubs, is using floating row covers. You can use those to cover your plants and kind of create that barrier between the plants and the beetles. So a couple more options. There is another one that you can buy online called Beetle Gone. You can't find it in the stores. I will mention it is expensive. There is a gallon container, and I think it sells for about $80. I'm not sure how much area that covers, but it is a dry product that you mix with water. So there are some other choices besides the soapy water bucket, depending on what type of war you want to wage on those Japanese beetles and what types of crops you have or plants you have in your garden. But they are back. You'll be seeing them all over the place. So I'll post a bunch of links to information in the comments. If you have any questions at all, you can certainly contact me directly by emailing me. I'll put that in the comments too. And definitely, if you've joined us today or later this week and you've watched our program, we'd love to hear your feedback. I'll post a link to a really brief evaluation survey. I would love to hear from you on that.
Julie, got a question for you.
Yes.
On the Japanese beetles with the soapy water, does any soap work, or is there a special one that works better?
Oh, I think it's just any soapy water. I would just use some dish soap to put
Dish
in a
detergent.
bucket. And yeah, just some sort of detergent, because you're just putting them in there and kind of drowning them in that, and then
Mhm.
throwing that away. So
Okay.
I would just grab some detergent that you have by the sink or in the laundry room or something.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
did have a question about what are your favorite annuals to grow? Well, I mentioned this year I'm into petunias. I don't know what it is, but I'm loving, I think because they come in all different colors. I have some really dark purple ones on my deck too. I have those red and white ones that I showed. I mean, there's such a variety with petunias. So this year I'm into petunias, but there's so many annuals to choose from. When you go to the greenhouses in the spring, it's like so much.
I like
My-
zinnias. I think they're my favorite because I love cut flowers, and plus they go into the fall season, September, even October possibly, and so I love cutting them and putting them in my kitchen.
Mhm. And I love pansies, moss roses, anything with a different texture on the foliage and in the flower. So I'm into the about anything, anything that's colorful that appeals to you is what's good. I've also got some lantana that's sitting in my flower pots right now, purely because it's a Mediterranean plant,
Mhm.
and I love the little flower on it. It's just pretty. So there is no real favorite. We have
Right.
a wide variety of likes and dislikes.
Right. And it depends on where you're putting them too, right? So also thinking about not just the flowers, which I usually go for is based on flowers, but sometimes just looking at the foliage. There's different greens, like Sue said, different textures you can use. So, if you have a real shady spot, you might not be necessarily going for big flowers that might not do well there, but you might be going for different kinds of greens and colors of foliage in that spot. So it kind of, everyone has their own personal preference and experiment. I seem to buy different ones every year, just kind of based on what catches my eye. I always like to plant marigolds in my vegetable garden too. I just have this thing of planting them like by the rows just to have those colors and then just have them there. I love sunflowers. Sunflowers are always a favorite. And those are fun to watch too when they get bigger and have the birds visiting them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Michelle, I know you mentioned there was a couple of other questions before. Do you want to, I know there was a tomato question.
Yeah, so the tomato question that we got was how to avoid the hard spots on tomatoes, the ones that don't mature with the fruit.
I guess I would just, maybe, pull them off and let them ripen in the counter. I don't know if I've ever really had that happen. I guess just, giving it more time to ripen. What do you think, Sue?
I was just trying to think back, and I was just wondering if it's a varietal thing, because some of the quote shoulders of the fruit is hard, and I
Okay.
think that's a variety thing.
Okay.
So it depends upon the variety, and it also depends upon if it's ripe enough as well.
I think there is
That's what I've
something
got.
called green shoulders on tomatoes. I'm going to look up if I
Oh, okay.
have some additional information on that as well.
Okay. But that's as much as I know about it.
Yeah, I haven't run into that too much personally either, but I know sometimes during the later part of the season, where the plant kind of starts looking peaked, but you still have tomatoes on there that just aren't quite ripening, you can bring them in and try to ripen them inside, even putting them like in a paper bag and trying to help them ripen that way.
When we get closer to fall, we'll discuss
That's what
how
I'm
to bring
thinking.
Yes.
Too, maybe when that happens.
Yeah, I know there
Now
is
let's
something.
concentrate on getting them grown so we can eat them.
I'm also wondering if what you're talking about is sun scald, where there's kind of like a whitish patch on the fruit, and that would be because the tomato itself is being really exposed to the sun. So you want to keep, the tomatoes do good with a little bit of protection from the other leaves. So I'm wondering if it's a little bit of sun scald or that you're seeing. I know there's something else here. I'm just looking while I have you all here. Green shoulders, like Sue said, they're more common on heirloom varieties. So that's when the rest of the tomato is red and they have green, the top of the fruit, top of the tomato is green, and that is caused by high temperatures and direct sun. So you can get resistant varieties. And again, maintaining that kind of canopy of foliage will help with those things. So I'm guessing that that's probably maybe what you're seeing could be just if there's not enough leaves kind of giving them that little bit of shade protection while they're growing. Good question.
That's an excellent, excellent question and so much information. So we're coming to the end of our half an hour with our fabulous master gardeners. I hope everyone has had an opportunity to view our past episodes too, because there's a lot of information there. Feel free to add to the viewing, even if you're watching at 10 o'clock at night, because we monitor each post and we can ask the gardeners for information as we go on. So I want to thank our gardeners today, and we all wish you well and a safe holiday weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Happy 4th.
Bye. Thank you.